They called him Mr. Las Vegas, and he died in bed at 89 with a humanitarian award on his mantle and senators at his funeral. But Moe Dalitz built his fortune on bootleg whiskey, illegal gambling, and bodies that disappeared into Lake Mead. He owned the Desert Inn, financed half the Strip, and laundered money for every major crime family in America. And somehow, the FBI never touched him. This is the story of the most successful mobster you've never heard of. The man who proved you did not need to be Italian to run the mob, just smarter than everyone else. Morris Barney Dalitz was born on Christmas Eve, 1899 in Boston, Massachusetts, to Jewish immigrant parents who had fled the pogroms of Eastern Europe. His father, Barney, ran a laundry business, the kind of honest work that kept a family fed but never made them rich. When Moe was still a boy, the family moved to Detroit, settling in a tight-knit Jewish neighborhood where everyone knew everyone, and you learned early who to trust and who to fear. Moe grew up strong, smart, and ambitious. He was not particularly tall, maybe 5'8", but he had presence. People noticed when he walked into a room. More importantly, people listened when he talked. He had a gift for numbers, for seeing angles that others missed, for making complicated things simple. By the time he was a teenager, he was already helping his father with the books at the laundry, already understanding that cash flow mattered more than profit, and that legitimate businesses made perfect covers for other activities. When America entered World War I in 1917, Moe enlisted. He served overseas, saw combat, came home with an honorable discharge, and with a new perspective on life. He had watched men die for their country, watched the government send boys into machine gun fire for abstract principles. And when he came back to an America that had just passed the Volstead Act, banning the manufacture and sale of alcohol, Moe Dalitz had an epiphany. Prohibition was not a law. It was an opportunity. Detroit, in the 1920s, was a bootlegger's paradise. Just across the Detroit River lay Canada, where alcohol was perfectly legal. All you needed was a fast boat, some courage, and connections on both sides of the border. Moe had all three. He started running whiskey across the river at night, small loads at first, testing the routes, paying off the right cops, learning the rhythm of the business. But Moe wasn't content to be a small-time runner. He saw the bigger picture. He partnered with a man named Sam Tucker and a crew of other Jewish businessmen, Morris Kleinman, Sam Miller, Louis Rothkopf. Together, they formed what became known as the Cleveland Syndicate. Though their operations stretched across multiple cities, they weren't thugs. They were businessmen who happened to traffic in illegal goods. The key to their success was simple. They didn't fight the Italians, they partnered with them. While other bootleg gangs were shooting each other in the streets, Moe Dalitz was sitting down at tables, making deals, splitting territories. He understood something that most gangsters never learned. Dead partners don't make money. Living partners with a stake in your success make you rich. In Detroit, Moe worked alongside the Purple Gang, the most feared Jewish mob in America. But he never joined them. He stayed independent, kept his own crew, maintained his own territory. And when the Purple Gang eventually destroyed itself through internal violence and reckless murders, Moe was still standing, still making money, still untouched. By the late 1920s, Moe Dalitz had moved his base of operations to Cleveland, Ohio. The Midwest was wide open. Factory workers flush with Ford money wanted to drink and gamble. Local politicians were cheap to buy and easy to control. And Moe had a vision that went beyond bootlegging. He saw gambling as the future, casinos as the next frontier. He opened illegal gambling joints all over Ohio, high-class operations with velvet ropes and professional dealers, places where factory workers and businessmen could lose their paychecks on dice and cards, while Moe's people skimmed the profits and paid the cops their weekly envelopes. The Harvard Club in Newburgh Heights became his flagship, a glittering casino disguised as a social club that made more money in a month than his father's laundry made in a decade. And through it all, Moe Dalitz never got caught, never got indicted, never spent a night in jail. He was too smart, too careful, too good at keeping his name off paper. Other gangsters bragged about their crimes. Moe kept his mouth shut and his records clean. By the 1930s, Moe Dalitz wasn't just running gambling joints in Cleveland. He was the gambling in Cleveland. The Mayfield Road Mob, as his syndicate became known, controlled every illegal casino, every wire service, every bookmaking operation in the city. Mayors and police chiefs were on the payroll. Judges looked the other way. And money flowed like Lake Erie in spring. But Moe's genius wasn't violence. It was organization. He built the Cleveland Syndicate like a corporation. Each partner had a specialty. Morris Kleinman handled day-to-day operations. Sam Tucker managed political relationships. Lou Rothkopf oversaw enforcement, though enforcement for Moe rarely meant murder. It meant economic pressure, cutting competitors off from suppliers, bribing away their protection, making their businesses unprofitable until they had no choice but to sell cheap or get out. Moe's biggest innovation was the wire service. Gamblers needed racing results instantly to settle bets. Whoever controlled the wire service controlled gambling. Moe partnered with Meyer Lansky and the National Crime Syndicate to monopolize racing wire services across the Midwest. It was a printing press for money. Bookies paid a fee for the service. If they didn't pay, they didn't get results. If they didn't get results, they couldn't operate. Simple, brutal economics. This was how Moe Dalitz met the Teamsters. Jimmy Hoffa was rising through the union ranks in Detroit and Cleveland. Hoffa needed money and muscle to consolidate power. Moe needed access to pension funds and labor peace at his operations. They formed a partnership that would last decades and reshape Las Vegas. The Teamsters Central States Pension Fund became a private bank for the mob. Moe and other syndicate leaders could borrow millions at favorable rates with minimal oversight to build casinos, hotels, golf courses, or whatever they wanted. The fund managers asked few questions. The loans rarely got repaid in full, and the skim from the casinos more than covered the losses. But even as Moe built his empire, he was careful about the rules he followed. He did not touch narcotics. Ever. That was a line he would not cross. Not because of morality, but because of mathematics. Drug dealers attracted federal heat. They got sloppy, they got arrested, they turned informant. Gambling was different. Politicians gambled. Cops gambled. Judges gambled. Nobody wanted gambling prosecuted too hard, because everyone was guilty. There were murder allegations. Of course there were. Men in Moe's business did not become powerful without spilling blood. Stories circulated about bodies dumped in the Cuyahoga River, about informants who disappeared, about competitors who took one-way rides out to the lake. But nothing was ever proven. No bodies were ever found with Moe's fingerprints on them. No witnesses ever testified. Moe understood omerta, the code of silence, better than most Italian mobsters. He did not just enforce it with threats. He enforced it with money and loyalty. He took care of his people. He paid them well, treated them fairly, and made sure their families were protected. Men who feel valued do not turn rat. Men who are afraid do. Moe made sure his people had more to lose by talking than by staying quiet. In 1941, Moe made his first move into Las Vegas. He became a hidden partner in the Nevada Club downtown, a modest casino that gave him a foothold in a city that was just beginning to understand its potential. Bugsy Siegel was building the Flamingo. Other mobsters were circling. Moe watched and learned. He saw that Nevada had legalized gambling in 1931, but the real money was just starting to flow. The war was coming. Soldiers would be training at bases across the Southwest. After the war, America would have money to spend, and Vegas would be there to take it. Moe started planning for a future that most gangsters could not even imagine. But he was patient. He did not rush. He waited for the right moment, the right property, the right partners. Because Moe Dalitz understood something fundamental about success. Timing matters more than talent. And the man who moves first often dies first. Better to let someone else make the mistakes and then step in with the money to fix them. In 1949, a man named Wilbur Clark was building a casino on the Las Vegas Strip. He called it the Desert Inn, and he envisioned it as the most elegant resort Vegas had ever seen. High-class, sophisticated, a place where Hollywood stars and oil tycoons could gamble in style. The problem was simple. Wilbur Clark had vision but no money. Construction had stopped with the building half finished and creditors circling. That is when Moe Dalitz walked in. Actually, he did not walk in. He was invited, because everyone in Vegas knew that if you needed money and could not get it from a bank, you called Cleveland. And Cleveland meant Moe Dalitz. Moe looked at Clark's unfinished casino and saw exactly what he had been waiting for. The location was perfect, right on the strip next to the Flamingo. The design was ambitious. 300 rooms, a championship golf course, a showroom built for the biggest acts in America. But more importantly, Clark was desperate. And desperate men make cheap partners. Moe and the Cleveland syndicate bought in for 75% of the property. They brought in Morris Kleinman, Sam Tucker, Lou Rothkopf, the whole crew. They kept Clark's name on the marquee, Wilbur Clark's Desert Inn, because Clark was clean. No criminal record, no mob ties that Nevada gaming regulators could prove. He was the perfect frontman. But make no mistake, Moe Dalitz owned the Desert Inn. Construction resumed immediately. Moe's money, Teamsters pension fund loans, and capital from syndicate partners across the country poured in. The Desert Inn opened on April 24, 1950, with Edgar Bergen and Charlie McCarthy headlining in the Painted Desert Room. The casino floor gleamed. The rooms were immaculate. The golf course, designed by Lawrence Hughes, would later become one of the most prestigious in Vegas. Opening night was a who's who of American entertainment and organized crime. Hollywood celebrities mixed with mobsters. Nobody cared. In 1950 Las Vegas, the line between legitimate businessman and gangster was thin enough to see through. And Moe Dalitz walked that line better than anyone. Within months, the Desert Inn was the most profitable casino on the Strip. Moe brought in the biggest entertainers in the world: Frank Sinatra, Dean Martin, Sammy Davis Jr. The Rat Pack made the Desert Inn their second home when they weren't at the Sands. Moe understood that entertainment sold rooms, and rooms brought gamblers, and gamblers left their money on his tables. But the real money wasn't in the casino win rates. It was in the skim. The skim was an art form, and Moe Dalitz was Michelangelo. Money would flow through the casino, cash from table games, from slots, from the sports book. Before it got counted for tax purposes, trusted men would pull it aside. They would undercount the drop, overestimate expenses, and divert cash through hidden channels. Then the money would be distributed to syndicate partners in Cleveland, Detroit, Chicago, New York. Everyone who had invested in the Desert Inn got their returns, tax-free, invisible, untraceable. The official casino profits looked modest. The real profits went to Lake Tahoe, to offshore accounts, to cash boxes buried in basements. The Nevada Tax Commission knew what was happening. The IRS suspected. The FBI had informants who confirmed it. But proving it was impossible. Moe's operation was too tight, his people too loyal, his records too clean. The money disappeared into the American economy like water into sand. And through it all, Moe Dalitz lived like a king. He had a suite at the Desert Inn. He ate in the finest restaurants. He played golf with celebrities and politicians. He donated to charities and shook hands with senators. The mobster from Cleveland had become Mr. Las Vegas, and nobody could do anything about it. He was untouchable. In 1950 and 1951, Senator Estes Kefauver of Tennessee led a series of televised hearings investigating organized crime in America. The Kefauver Committee dragged mobsters into the public eye. Frank Costello, Meyer Lansky, Tony Accardo, all the biggest names in organized crime were subpoenaed to testify. And so was Moe Dalitz. On the morning of his testimony, Moe walked into the hearing room calm, confident, impeccably dressed. The senators grilled him about bootlegging, illegal gambling in Ohio, his connections to organized crime figures across the country. And Moe gave them a performance for the ages. When they asked him about bootlegging during Prohibition, Moe leaned into the microphone and said something that became legendary. "If you people would not have drunk it, I would not have bootlegged it." The room erupted. Some people laughed, others were outraged. But Moe had made his point. He was not apologizing. He was stating a fact. America had wanted to drink. He had provided the service, supply and demand, capitalism. The committee tried to nail him on gambling, on murder, on racketeering. But Moe had prepared for this moment his entire life. His answers were careful and vague, protected by lawyers who had rehearsed every question. He admitted nothing that could be prosecuted. He denied nothing that could be disproven. He danced around the truth like Fred Astaire. When the hearings ended, Moe Dalitz walked out uncharged, unindicted, untouched. The FBI had files on him that filled cabinets. They knew his bootlegging history. They knew his gambling empire. They knew his partners, his fronts, his schemes. But knowing and proving are different things. And Moe was a master at staying just out of reach. Part of his genius was the line he would not cross: narcotics. Moe refused to touch drugs. In the 1950s, as other mobsters were getting rich on heroin, Moe stayed clean. It was not morality. It was strategy. Drug trafficking brought federal heat that gambling never did. Narcotics dealers got long sentences. They turned informant. They brought down entire families. Gambling was different. Half of America gambled. Cops, judges, senators. They all bet on horses, played poker, shot dice. Prosecuting gambling too hard meant prosecuting yourself. Moe understood that better than anyone. Stay in gambling. Stay in loan sharking. Stay in skimming casino profits, and you could live forever. His relationship with Jimmy Hoffa and the Teamsters gave him another layer of protection. The pension fund loans were technically legitimate. They were documented, filed with the Labor Department, approved by fund trustees. The fact that the fund lent millions to known mobsters at sweetheart rates was suspicious, but not illegal. The fact that many loans were never fully repaid could be written off as bad business decisions. Moe also had political protection. He donated to campaigns, both Democrats and Republicans. He hosted fundraisers at the Desert Inn. He made sure that senators and governors knew he could be useful, not through threats, through favors. Need a venue for a campaign event? Moe had a ballroom. Need to entertain donors? Moe comped their rooms. There were even whispers that J. Edgar Hoover, the director of the FBI himself, had stayed at the Desert Inn as Moe's guest. Hoover loved to gamble on horses. He loved to be treated like royalty. And Moe Dalitz knew exactly how to make powerful men feel important. But perhaps Moe's greatest protection was his tax returns. Every year he filed on time. Every year his returns showed modest income, carefully documented expenses, legitimate business losses that offset his gains. The IRS audited him repeatedly. They found nothing prosecutable. His accountants were too good, his records too meticulous. Al Capone went to prison for tax evasion. Meyer Lansky fled to Israel. Tony Accardo survived but lived under constant surveillance. Moe Dalitz just kept building, kept expanding, kept getting richer. And the FBI couldn't touch him. By the late 1950s, Moe Dalitz wasn't just running the Desert Inn. He was financing half the Strip. When Tony Cornero died at a craps table before finishing the Stardust, Moe stepped in with money and expertise. When other casino operators needed capital, they came to Cleveland, and Cleveland meant Moe. He became a hidden partner in multiple properties: the Stardust, the Sundance, which later became Fitzgerald's Downtown, the Fremont. His money touched almost every major casino project in Vegas through the 1950s and 60s. And with every investment, he took a piece of the skim. But Moe's ambition went beyond casinos. He saw that Las Vegas needed infrastructure to grow. It needed hospitals, country clubs, shopping centers, residential developments. So Moe invested in all of it. He became a real estate developer, buying land across the valley, building subdivisions, creating the suburbs that would eventually house 1 million people. In 1958, Moe Dalitz did something that stunned everyone who knew his background. He founded Sunrise Hospital, the first major hospital in Las Vegas. He donated land and money. He recruited doctors. He sat on the board of trustees alongside ministers and community leaders. When people asked why a mobster was building a hospital, Moe had a simple answer: Las Vegas needed one. And Moe Dalitz took care of Las Vegas because Las Vegas had made him rich. It was good business, wrapped in philanthropy, and it worked. Sunrise Hospital became a respected institution. Moe's name was on the dedication plaque. And his reputation transformed from gangster to community builder. He joined country clubs, though some still would not admit Jews, no matter how rich they were. He donated to the University of Nevada, Las Vegas, funding scholarships and building projects. He sponsored Little League teams and charity golf tournaments. The man who had bootlegged whiskey and skimmed millions from casinos was now cutting ribbons at school openings. This was Moe's genius. He understood that in America, money washes clean. If you are rich enough, philanthropic enough, patient enough, your past becomes an amusing story instead of a crime. Bootlegging during Prohibition, that was just good business sense. Illegal gambling, well, Nevada made it legal anyway. Murder allegations, never proven. By the 1960s, Moe Dalitz was one of the most respected businessmen in Las Vegas. He had lunch with governors. He played golf with senators. He sat on charity boards with the city's most prominent citizens. And if anyone brought up his past, Moe would smile and say he was just a businessman who had succeeded in a tough business. The FBI still followed him. They still kept files. They still knew exactly what he was doing with casino skims and teamsters' money. But Moe had achieved something remarkable. He had become too big to prosecute, too connected, too legitimate. Arresting Moe Dalitz would embarrass too many powerful people who had taken his donations, attended his events, called him a friend. He had threaded the needle between organized crime and legitimate business so skillfully that nobody could say for certain which side he was really on. And maybe that was the point. Maybe Moe had figured out that the difference between a mobster and a businessman was not the methods, just the paperwork. In November 1966, Howard Hughes arrived in Las Vegas on a train in the middle of the night. The eccentric billionaire, already spiraling into mental illness and isolation, checked into the top floor of the Desert Inn. He came for a short stay. He ended up living there. Hughes was paranoid, germophobic, dependent on drugs, and surrounded by Mormon aides who controlled his every interaction with the outside world. He refused to leave his penthouse suite. Weeks turned into months. And the Desert Inn had a problem. Hughes was occupying their most expensive rooms during the Christmas and New Year's holiday season, their most profitable time of year. Moe Dalitz went up to Hughes's floor personally. He told the billionaire he needed to leave. High rollers had reservations. The hotel needed the space. Hughes refused. So Moe gave him an ultimatum: leave or buy the place. Hughes bought the place. On March 27, 1967, Howard Hughes purchased the Desert Inn for $13.2 million. Moe Dalitz and the Cleveland syndicate walked away with a fortune. After 17 years of skimming millions and taking profits, they sold the casino itself for top dollar to a lunatic billionaire who wanted to live on the top floor forever. It was the greatest exit in Vegas history. Moe cashed out at the peak, sold to a buyer who asked no questions and paid in full, and walked away clean. No investigations. No prosecutions. Just a massive payday. But Moe wasn't done. He took his money from the Desert Inn sale and invested it in something even more ambitious. a Costa Resort and Country Club in Carlsbad, California, a luxury resort and spa on 350 acres of Southern California coastline. La Costa opened in 1965, but Moe expanded it through the late 60s and early 70s using Teamsters pension fund loans. It became a playground for celebrities, politicians, and yes, mobsters. Richard Nixon played golf there. Frank Sinatra performed there. And in the back rooms, mob bosses from across the country held meetings, made deals, and conducted business away from FBI surveillance. In 1975, Penthouse magazine ran a two-part investigative series alleging that La Costa was built with mob money and served as a national headquarters for organized crime. Moe Dalitz sued for libel. The case dragged on for years, cost millions in legal fees, and ended in a settlement where Penthouse retracted nothing and paid nothing. Moe had proven his point. You could accuse him all you wanted, but unless you could prove it in court, he would fight you to a standstill. And he had better lawyers, more money, and more patience than almost anyone who challenged him. On November 10, 1976, something remarkable happened that proved Moe Dalitz had won the greatest con of his life. The State of Israel awarded him the Torch of Freedom Award for his humanitarian work and contributions to Israeli causes. A mobster from Cleveland who had bootlegged whiskey, skimmed casinos, and laundered money for crime families across America received an award from a foreign government for being a good humanitarian. Let that sink in for a moment. The same man the FBI had investigated for decades, the man they believed had ordered murders and run illegal gambling operations across the Midwest, was being honored for his charity. Moe had donated hundreds of thousands of dollars to Jewish causes, to hospitals in Israel, and to resettlement programs for Holocaust survivors. He had raised money for the United Jewish Appeal. He had supported synagogues in Las Vegas, and it worked brilliantly. The Torch of Freedom Award legitimized Moe Dalitz in a way that no amount of money or political connections ever could. He was no longer just a businessman. He was a humanitarian, a pillar of his community. A man who had overcome humble beginnings to achieve the American dream and give back to those less fortunate. In 1982, the University of Nevada, Las Vegas opened the Moe Dalitz Conference Center, funded entirely by his donations. Students walked through doors bearing the name of a man who had built his fortune on illegal gambling and mob violence. Professors held seminars in rooms paid for with money that came from casino skims and Teamsters pension fund schemes. And nobody seemed to care. Or if they did care, they cared more about the donation checks than where the money came from. Moe joined country clubs, though he still faced anti-Semitism from some old money institutions that would not admit Jews no matter how rich they were. He played golf with celebrities at La Costa. He dined with senators at the best restaurants in Vegas. He attended charity galas where governors stood at podiums and gave speeches thanking Moe Dalitz for his generosity, for his vision, for his contributions to making Las Vegas and Nevada better places to live. The FBI still had agents watching him. They still kept files that documented his every move, every phone call, every meeting with known associates. But Moe's transformation was complete. He had become exactly what he had always wanted to be. Untouchable, not because he was invisible, but because he was too respected, too connected, too legitimate to prosecute. He had gone from bootlegger to casino owner to respected philanthropist without ever spending a day in prison, without ever being convicted of anything. He had proven something fundamental about America. If you are rich enough and patient enough, you can rebrand yourself completely. Your past becomes a colorful backstory instead of a criminal record. The murders become rumors. The crimes become ancient history. Some people whispered. Of course, they whispered. Old-time Vegas locals remembered who Moe really was. They knew about the skim, about the bodies that had disappeared into the desert, about the teamsters' loans that were never repaid, about the violence that built his empire. But whispers do not matter when you are cutting checks to hospitals and universities. Whispers do not override the plaques on buildings and the awards on your wall. Moe understood something that most mobsters never learned. Philanthropy is not just good for your soul. It is good for business. It is armor against prosecution. It is insurance against your past. When senators are taking photos with you at charity events, when rabbis are blessing your name at fundraisers, when university presidents are thanking you for your donations, who is going to prosecute you? Who wants to be the person who arrests the humanitarian? The ultimate question hung over Moe's later years like desert heat shimmering on asphalt. Was he a criminal who had successfully reinvented himself? Or had he always been a businessman operating in an era when the laws had not caught up to the business? Was there even a difference between those two things? Moe never answered that question directly. He did not need to. His legacy would answer it for him. The buildings with his name on them. The awards in his home. The politicians at his parties. The charities funded by his donations. That was his answer. That was his defense. That was his victory. By the time the 1980s arrived, Moe Dalitz was not a mobster anymore. He was Mr. Las Vegas. And Mr. Las Vegas did not answer questions about bodies in the desert. He just smiled, played another round of golf, and wrote another check to make sure his name would outlive the accusations.